So they fear that if we talk about this, it's going to expose just how bad our relationship is. And, maybe they're avoiding conflict because they grew up in a household where there was a lot of conflict and arguments. And so they don't want to do that, not realizing that just because you have conflict does not mean that you have to argue, fuss, and fight. That there's absolutely a way to talk through conflict.
Yeah. Everyone, and welcome to another episode, the first episode of 2023. Happy New Year. We're back from our hiatus, from our vacation, if you will.
Our rest and restore, our vision casting, and all of the things that happened.
This is Marriage Matters. This is a podcast where we talk about marriage matters because marriage matters.
Yes,
if you're watching for the very first time, my name is Glenn Coleman, and I am joined by the woman of my dreams.
Hello, everyone. I am Tynia Coleman, the woman of his dreams.
That's right. So we're in a new year, fresh start. Anything you looking forward to in 2023?
I am looking forward to all of the things in 2023. My expectations are high.
Okay.
I'm expecting for God to do some extremely amazing things with what we put our hands to work to do.
All right. Well, you heard it here first. So we're going to go ahead and get into today's topic. But before we do that, I will just say we want to thank you guys for all the support, the love, the support. Had a couple people ask me, like, man, we've been missing you guys when you guys coming back. And I said, we're taking a break right now. We'll be back.
On our way.
So thanks for all the comments, the likes and the shares, all of the things. We want to, one of the things in 2023, we want to include you guys more in our content. So by all means, reach out, send us messages. You can contact us. We're going to be giving you some information on how to contact us toward the end of the podcast. So if there's a topic that you want us to cover or want us to talk about, if you would like to come on the podcast and talk about a topic with you and your spouse, what have you, let us know. We would love to have you on. So now, with that being said, before we get into the topic, I want to do our tip, trick, and tool. Tip, tricks, and tools. We always like to give you something, tangible, maybe to help you in your relationships. And this week, I want to highlight this is a tool that we use. I don't know if you can see it, but this is the conflict resolution process. And today we're going to be talking about conflict avoidance. So this is a tool that can really help you to get clear on areas where you may be having conflict in your marriage, but in any relationship, whether that's with your kids, co-workers, whomever. So it's just 7 steps that will help you to get your thoughts together and help you walk through conflict in relationships. So if you would like a free PDF of this conflict resolution, let us know in the comments and we will send that to you. Or you can, if you don't want to let us know in the comments, send us a direct message and we will what?
I think I am rescinding that offer.
Okay.
So here, if you would like a copy of the conflict resolution process, I need for you to like, to share the podcast. In at least 2 out of 3 places. You have Instagram, so IG, you have Facebook, and you have YouTube. All right. So you're going to like, you're going to share, and you're going to let us know that I'm done, that I've done all of the things that Tynia asked for me to do. Please send me this PDF, and you will message us You don't put it in the comments unless you're fine with it. But message us your email address and we will send you the PDF.
So you got that.
So you have that call to action. You're gonna like and share Marriage Matters on Facebook and Instagram, Facebook and YouTube and Instagram, what have you.
Two places.
At least 2 of those 3 places, or all 3 if you like. And you're also going to share this episode, right? And you're going to send us your email address so that we can provide you with the conflict resolution process.
Okay. All right.
I think you guys can do that, and I think you can do it in like 2 minutes. So
probably less than that.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So now we're ready.
So, like I said, this week we're starting with we're talking about conflict avoidance, and this is something that I know for me that I'm still working on because I'm not great at confronting. I'm the type of person I'll just deal with it and I'll keep it to myself. Why are you looking at me like that?
Are you really dealing with it?
Yeah.
No, I'm joking.
Well, you don't think I am?
No, I'm messing with you. I'm therapizing you, but I'm kidding.
Therapizing? Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that's what the podcast is for. We can talk. If you don't think I am, then we could talk about it.
No, finish your statement.
Okay.
I was literally joking.
Oh, okay. But I wanted to read an excerpt from a book that Tynia and I, we've been reading. It's Marriage Be Hard by Kevin and Melissa Fredericks. Kev on stage and Miss Kev on stage. Shout out to the Fredericks. They're really good friends of ours.
Yep. In Jesus' name.
In Jesus' name. They're really not, but we say they are. But this is an excerpt from their book, and it just says, I'll just read this, and then we'll talk about, it kind of ties into what we're talking about today. And this is Melissa talking. She says, our communication around Kev's career was lacking. We could have and should have been more deliberate about taking the journey together, about dreaming together and celebrating the wins. But instead, we often allow things to go unsaid and unchecked. Deep down, I believe that if I didn't articulate the problems, maybe they wouldn't exist. I could keep the peace and eventually all would be well. This avoidance never works. The longer issues go unsaid, the more entrenched they become in your relationship. We both created a narrative about the way our relationship worked, and then each of us operated based on those assumptions. This cycle is dangerous territory for any relationship. Have you ever been driving and suddenly realized you don't even know how you arrived at your destination? You were just on autopilot. I suspect that a lot of people whose marriages end in divorce ask themselves that question: how do we get here? So
true.
We're talking about conflict avoidance, and I remember we had this conversation a couple of weeks ago. I think we were sitting in Starbucks and I was telling you, I was like, I see how, a lot of times you ask about, how can somebody be married for 20 years and then get a divorce? And I told you, I said, and I could see how that could happen because it's kind of like what she was saying here, you get on autopilot and you just, it's like you don't do the work that it takes to, it's so much easier to avoid the hard conversations. It's so much easier to do that. But what I want to do in this podcast is really encourage you to have the conversations. And, because when you don't, you think by not saying anything that you're really keeping the peace and you're not, it's not causing any harm. You think that if you say something, you're going to cause harm. But the opposite is true because you're painting a narrative in your mind and you're living out of that narrative. And if both of you are doing that, then you're probably not, like she said, you're probably not on the destination together. You're moving in opposite directions. Absolutely. So tonight I really want to just talk about conflict avoidance and how not to avoid conflict or to become better at dealing with conflict.
Yeah. Facing it head on.
Okay, so go ahead. You talk now.
So we're moving in.
We are.
Okay. So Yeah, and so you see this often in relationships where people struggle to talk about what it is that they really want to talk about,
Yeah.
to say what it is that they really have to say. I think it happens for several reasons. Sometimes they're avoiding conflict, but they are avoiding an argument. They are avoiding something that they are already fearing. So they fear that if we talk about this, is going to expose just how bad our relationship is. And maybe they're avoiding conflict because they grew up in a household where there was a lot of conflict and arguments, and so they don't want to do that, not realizing that just because you have conflict does not mean that you have to argue, fuss, and fight. That there's absolutely a way to talk through conflict.
Yeah. So, conflict avoidance is a type of people-pleasing behavior that typically arises from deep-rooted fear of upsetting others. So I know for me, that's what it's like. I just want to make sure everybody is happy. I don't want. It's like I'm like what was his name? Rodney King. Can't we all just get along? It's like, can't we just all can we all just get along? And so when I find myself avoiding conflict, the question to ask is, where is this coming from? Or why am I not confronting this issue?
Right.
And a lot of times, like you said earlier, it could be tracked back to environment. I was listening to a podcast from some of our other good friends, Tim and Juliet Ross.
Yes. Praise the Lord.
By faith. That's
yes.
I don't want to make it seem like that we are really
just
know these
name
people.
Dropping, huh?
But he was saying that when they first got married, he said, he came from a family where if you had something on your mind, you said it. He said, but she came from a family where her dad was very abusive, and her dad left after a time. So she equated that to
leaving
or just negativity. So he said, when they first got married, he would be like, girl, what you talking about? And she'd be like, why are you yelling at me? And he's like, I'm not yelling at you. I'm just, this is the way I talk. But he had to realize that it's because of her background and his background. So he said, and here's the deal with the conflict avoidance. We've got to, or working through the conflict avoidance, especially in that instance. He was saying how he had to learn to change his voice for his spouse. And so he understood that if he talked, he had to talk like this so that she knew. So he wouldn't say, girl, that's crazy. He was like, I understand what you're saying, but maybe we look at it this way, and a lot of people may say, well, it shouldn't take all that, or, you shouldn't have to do that. And my question is always, do you want a successful and healthy marriage, or don't you?
That's the work.
And that's the work that we're talking about, that it takes to be married for. Well, let me back up. This is the work that it takes to be married and happy.
Yes.
Because I know a lot of people, they stay married just because it's a financial thing or whatever. So yeah. So that's what conflict avoidance is. You got anything else to add on that?
No, I think that was a really good example.
So here's some examples of how it manifests. One of the ways is called, I think my favorite, a conflict avoidance method is stonewalling. And what stonewalling is just emotionally checking out and denying an issue exists by ignoring it. I tend to just kind of withdraw, and I'm kind of standoffish, and I don't want to talk. And Tynia says, babe, what's wrong? And I'm like, nothing wrong. I'm good. Ain't nothing wrong. You know what I'm saying? But she knows because of my behavior that something is wrong.
I don't know if I would define what you do as stonewalling.
Okay.
Because stonewalling is typically deeper than that. That person is completely not open to having a discussion about it ever.
Okay.
And it's usually a very toxic situation that relationship winds up in because of that person stonewalling. So I think with you, it is conflict avoidance, but from a very different kind of place.
Okay.
Because when I think of stonewalling, I think of very toxic behavior, and that's not necessarily what I think you're doing.
Okay.
It may not be healthy all the time, but I don't think it's toxicity, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I got you. And so maybe it's just, like the silently resenting unresolved issues. Or I just know for me, I tend to go inward.
Right.
And and for people like me, I really have to work at that because that I know. And it's funny because even when I'm doing it, I know how it's affecting you and I can see how it's affecting you. But it's like it still sometimes takes me a minute to and I could say, well, I'm just processing, but it's not. I'm really avoiding the issue.
So my question for you is, or you see how it's affecting me, right? And the behavior still continues. Are you doing it intentionally to hurt or to harm?
No, I don't think so. I just don't want to deal with it in this moment.
And that's what I wanted to make clear, kind of tying back to the stonewalling thing, because usually it's being done intentionally to hurt or to harm.
Gotcha.
And not wanting to own your part in whatever the conflict is.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I gotcha. So, and we kind of talked about this. How could it be an issue? When you avoid the slightest disagreement, you're compromising your true feelings and storing up frustration that can end up negatively affecting your health. Bottling up your emotions can lead to health issues, or just it eventually it's like those things where it's like you hold it in, and then somebody doesn't put the dishes up, and you just blow up over the dishes.
Right.
And it's not the dishes, and people are like, "Why is she tripping so hard?"
Right.
Or "Why is he tripping so hard over the dishes?" It's not the dishes. That's all of the things that all of the unresolved issues. Right. So tonight I really want to give some strategies for overcoming, and some of these strategies that I am implementing, and I'm still working. Like I said, I'm still working at it. I'm not, an expert at it. So these are some of the things that are working for me. So the number one thing for me is reframing confrontation.
Tell me more.
So you said it earlier, but I'll say it again. Disagreeing does not equal fighting. Disagreeing is not about who's right or who's wrong. What we're doing is I'm telling you this is how I feel, or how I feel about this situation is different from how you feel about the situation. And what we have to understand is just because we don't feel the same about a situation doesn't mean that we have to fight about that. Doesn't mean that it's a bad thing, because we are two different people. We come from two different backgrounds. We have different upbringings. We're from different states, different cities. You know what I'm saying? So we're not going to see eye to eye. And we say this all the time. The goal of marriage is not to think alike, but to think together.
Yeah.
And so that really helps me to say that just because, or just even accept, because I know a lot of times when we're trying to make decisions, I can be very matter of fact about a thing. And sometimes I'm like that because I'm a researcher, and I do all of the research, and I read all the articles, read all the books, watch all the videos. And so I'm like, this is what we need to do. So I'm like very matter of fact. And then if you have a different opinion, sometimes I think I think that you're trying to maybe, what is it? Say that I don't know what I'm talking about, or that you may be attacking like my leadership skills or whatever, but it's not. You're just saying, okay, that's your opinion, well, here's my opinion. And then conflict, then once I reframe that, then I know that now we can work on working through the conflict and getting to a place where we can resolve and come into an agreement. And agreement doesn't always mean that, what am I trying to say? Agreement doesn't mean that I think
that we agree to do it exactly the same way.
right.
That sometimes agreement means that maybe we take what you believe is correct or true and what I believe is correct or true, and now we create something altogether different together. We do it together.
Yeah. Or sometimes it's like, okay, well, we're gonna go ahead and do it your way.
Right.
And so my point in all of this is that it doesn't mean we have to fuss, fight, and argue. Mm-hmm. That's not what you are going to have. You're not gonna see things the same way all the time. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm trying to get at. And so for me, reframing that and realizing that really helped me to work through it, because again, my whole thing is, can we all just get along? And I don't want to fight I don't want to argue. I don't want to fuss and all that and that doesn't mean you have to do any of that. That makes sense?
It does. It makes complete sense.
Okay.
So I like the next one. Make a plan.
Make a plan. So the conflict resolution process. So before you confront, before you come with your opinion, take the time to think that through and write it down. And this also helps to make sure that you are not attacking and you don't come off. Because a lot of times I think when you do it without a plan, you can come off, like Tim Ross was saying. He's like, girl, were you crazy? And he didn't probably mean his wife was crazy. That's just how he expressed it.
It's just loose language.
Yeah. So it's like when you have a plan in place, you really have the tools to basically point by point say, this is what I'm feeling. This is how I'm feeling about this. I don't see it the way you see it. Here's how I feel it. Here's how I feel about it. Here's how this has affected me. Here's why I think maybe that may not work because this. Here's some things you may not have thought about.
Sure.
You got what I'm saying?
I think, also with having a plan and using a tool such as the conflict resolution process is that it keeps you on the issue at hand.
Yes.
Because sometimes when we get into conflict and we're having conflict because of the dishes in the sink, right? And the next thing that you're talking about your mama and what happened 20 years ago. And so you're bringing all of these other things into the dishes. It's about the dishes, or not really about the dishes, but I feel like I'm being disregarded because no one else is lending a hand to keep the kitchen up. That's really what it's about. You know what I mean? Or whatever it is, we get off topic and off issue. And so with having that plan in place, it keeps us on topic of dealing with this specific issue. Yeah. And we process that, and whatever else is going on, maybe we come back to that at another time.
And here's the other thing. One of the reasons why this is so key, and just to really get in the practice of doing this, is because when you do this, then you don't have the unresolved issues.
Correct.
And you don't have to go back to the stuff 20 years ago. Right. And so I was going to say something else about that. Which you had said something. I was like, oh, that was a good point. About making a plan. I can't remember.
Keeping with the issue, the topic.
Yeah. If it comes back to me, I'll say it. Okay. But yeah, so that's why we wanted to share this conflict resolution process with you, because it's a really great tool. I know what I was going to say. When you first start this, you may have to over communicate, and I know for a person like me, that can be frustrating. But again, I have to come to that conclusion to know that we're doing this for the betterment of the relationship. And sometimes even in that's when the podcast that I was listening to with Tim Ross and his wife Juliet, they're talking about when they stepped away from their church. God told them to step away from the church, and they were just saying because that was such it was a big deal. It was a big deal, but just I can imagine almost like giving up a child.
Correct.
He said that they had so many emotions that they had to just really over communicate and make sure that there was no resentment, because it was such a key pivotal point in their lives. Right. So when you're going through, especially whether it's a big move, big career change, like for us, you quitting the agency you were with to start your own agency. We have to over communicate.
Correct.
Because there's so much change on so many different levels that we're going through. And so yeah, that's just something that we can, and that's why it's so great to make sure that because like we had a really heart to heart last night before we went to bed. We were reading through the Marriage Be Hard book. And the thing I like about it, at the end of every chapter, that's like a check-in.
Yes.
So some of the questions that they were asking was really helping us
they pull a lot
to
out.
pull some of the stuff that we have been silently thinking and feeling. It helped us to pull out. So that's why it's so great to have these tools, in our tool belt. So
absolutely. You want me to read the next one?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Okay. Do your thing.
Recognize and manage your feelings. Being aware of how your emotions impact you can help you gain a greater understanding of yourself and others. I love that, being emotionally aware. Before confronting someone, try examining and questioning your feelings. And that is something we talk about here all the time. That if I feel this way, I need to sit with me first and figure out, why am I feeling this way? Why am I thinking this way? Allow myself to get clear about it instead of, jumping off of that emotion. Get understanding of why you're feeling that way, and then go and have a conversation with your spouse. So that's really, really good.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to sedate emotions like anger, sadness, or fear, try looking at them through the lens of self-compassion and allowing yourself to see your negative thoughts with empathy. I love that. Self-compassion. How many times have you thought about giving yourself compassion? We use the term, show yourself grace, give yourself grace. Show yourself compassion. What does that word compassion mean? Right? That's coming from a place of love, right? And we have to learn how to love ourselves. You can try practicing the following affirmations. It's okay to feel however I'm feeling at this moment. My emotions are valid. I am worthy and deserving of being heard. All my experience, good and bad, give me the space to grow.
Yeah,
I love it. I love all of those affirmations.
Yeah, and this is especially with I would say with the kids most of all, is when I'm feeling like angry. I've gotten a lot better over the years of stopping and saying, why is this making me so angry? Because I'm the one in charge. I got all the power in this relationship.
Right.
So why am I the one that's angry and upset? So, and it's a lot of times it goes back to me. It's for me, it's ego. It's how you going to talk to me that way? Whatever. And I'm like, oh, if you want to, talk to me that way. Well, here are the consequences for talking to me that way.
It's the authority.
Yeah. Just on that, I was sitting with Beta in the car, and she was watching some musical, and they were singing the Destiny's Child song, Bills. Can you pay him a telephone bill? I was like, yep. I was like, yeah, I pay all of them.
Right.
I pay all your bills.
Right.
She was like, Dad, I'm just saying, I do. I pay. You don't have no automobile, but I
got all the other ones covered.
Yeah, I got all the other ones, all of them. So anyway, but yeah, so asking yourself, why are you so angry when that person said that? And what this also does is it gives the power of your life back to you. Because when you can stop yourself from getting upset and getting angry from what other people are saying and doing, that's a powerful place to be.
Absolutely. That is taking control over your own emotions. That is, being sure and confident in who you are, right? And that I don't have to allow what other people do and or say to move me in a negative way. And we all have feelings, we all have emotions. And so sometimes those things are hurt. But remember that you have the authority to stand in what is just and right and true, for you.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do this last one. Go ahead.
Okay. Resolve issues in real time rather than endlessly ruminate and allow conflicts to fester in your head. Try taking a more assertive approach, addressing it head on. You can start by stating the issue non emotionally and using faith based sentences.
Fact.
Thank you.
Yeah, you said faith based.
I said face. I said face.
Oh, face? Okay. Fact based.
Fact-based sentences. That made so more sense to me now. Yeah. I was like, face-based. Okay, babe, talk about it. But fact-based sentences. Avoid being accusatory or defensive. This is in counseling, when working with couples, we talk about using fair fighting rules. And so there's like this list of rules about not using profanity, only talking about the facts, not yelling. Like there's a really long list of rules. And so this kind of summarizes that, right? Because you want to, although you're in a disagreement, you want to show respect and you want to show, honor and value for the other person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Can you give an example of a fact-based sentence? I'll put you on the spot.
A fact-based sentence. You are a very handsome man with a beard.
Okay.
That's fact to me, I guess. Okay, well, that may be opinionated, huh?
Yeah. So it could be something like, yesterday when you said this, I felt this way.
Correct.
And that's a fact. Now, typically somebody would say, well, I didn't mean for you.
Correct.
I understand that, but I'm telling you, this is a fact that when you said that or when you did that,
this is what I felt.
This is what I felt. And for the other party, I have to really work on understanding that a lot of times what I say or what I mean or how I mean for things to come across doesn't necessarily mean it's going to come across that way.
Correct.
So I had to allow my spouse to give her fact-based sentence. And the other thing you said, avoid being accusatory or defensive. So accusing people of things or being even defensive. Like I said, with that fact-based sentence, when you said that, it made me feel this way. So being defensive would be like, well, I didn't mean for you. Well, that's okay. Right. Well, I'm sorry that I made you feel that way. And then you could say like, that wasn't my intention. I guess, because there's been so many times where, good example, when we were having that conversation in Starbucks, and I was talking about how I see how people can, after 20 years, get a divorce when they don't do the work. And I was talking about like financial hardships. And you came back and you was like, what did you mean by that? And it was like, it wasn't in that moment, but I think maybe it was on the ride home. Great example, because you didn't respond in that moment, but it was in real time. You know what I'm saying?
I keep looking down, and if you see my eyes go in mama mode, because I'm watching this dog tear up this blanket.
Stop eating that blanket. Stop it.
We're gonna have to take it away.
But anyway, you didn't get defensive, but you got clarity on what I was saying.
Right.
So that's how you handle that, and that's part of working through conflict. So the other thing is, sometimes no matter what happens, you can't resolve or work through the conflict. So what do? You get help.
Yes.
So conflict avoiding tendencies can take a toll on your mental health. Leaving conflicts unresolved leads to pent-up frustration and a greater sense of loneliness that can build over time. Seeking a qualified therapist can help you learn how to better manage your negative emotions. So, man, look, get help.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you can't shake it, if you can't, if you and your spouse maybe can't come to agreement, get help and get someone that's qualified, a qualified therapist, or if it's not a therapist, preferably a qualified therapist. But if not, our 4 things: someone who loves God, someone who loves you, someone who loves your spouse, and that is for your marriage.
Absolutely.
We don't want somebody that's going to automatically take your side. That's not who you want to go to, right? So, wrapping all this up, you had anything else to add?
No, well, I will say this. Don't wait though, guys, until it gets bad, until it gets rough. You need to have either a licensed person, a licensed counselor, or someone who loves God, someone who loves you, someone who loves your spouse, and someone who is for your marriage. Like these are qualifications for the one person, or maybe another couple who may be mentoring you all. Have those people in your lives already. Like you should already be talking to a counselor. If you didn't do premarital counseling, then you need to be doing some marital counseling.
It's like we call it marriage maintenance.
Yes.
So you need to be having these things going ongoing,
consistently.
Because you know the call I hate getting. Man, she leaving.
Right.
She's packing her bags right now. What do I need to do to stop her?
Glenn, can you come over tonight? What are we gonna do?
Like, it's almost too late at that point.
Right.
And hopefully she'll come to a session or he'll come to a session. But that when you want, like Tynia said, can you come over now? I mean, what you want me to do?
Right.
It's like I ain't going. Y'all over there getting into some heated fellowship. You better call the popo. I'm not going over there, but I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But anyway, get help. Reach out. We're here for you. If it's not us, we could recommend someone.
Absolutely.
You can go online. There's so many resources now that you have access to. So like Tynia said, don't wait till it's too late. Even when things are going, the best time to get help is when things are going great.
Yep. Well, I call it peacetime. When it's peacetime and we're actually doing good, but you still have all of that unresolved stuff kind of under the rug, that's the time to get help. That's the time to go and have conversation and be open, be honest, be vulnerable with people. We cannot help if you are not open, if you're not honest, and if you're not vulnerable. If you're covering up, trying to act like, oh, we're here because everything is perfect, there's no help that can be done with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, wrapping all this up, conflict is a normal part of our lives. It's going to happen. It's okay to never be completely comfortable with confrontation. Being able to resolve issues effectively means accepting it as a healthy part of communication. So in other words, you may not ever get to the place where you're just so comfortable in, confronting. But hey, I just got to do it because it's a normal part of life.
Right.
Disagreeing provides deeper understanding. It makes it easier to connect.
Yeah.
I mean, when Tynia and I have had some really hard conversations, maybe not in the moment, it didn't feel like it, but it deepens our connection.
Absolutely.
With each other. Embracing confrontation won't happen overnight. That's the other thing. This is a process, and it takes practice. I mean, we're 21 years in, and we're still practicing,
working on it.
Right?
Yeah.
Take small steps each day toward feeling more comfortable facing your fears and speaking up for yourself.
So good.
So that's it. That's all we got for you this week. Anything else?
No, sir.
Well, remember you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Remember, if you want the conflict resolution process, send us, do the things, share.
You want to share, and send us your email address so that we can send you the document.
Yeah. And so remember, if you're watching this, you can also listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor Podcasts, and anywhere podcasts can be found. We are usually there. And the last thing that I want to mention is if you're looking for a qualified therapist, there's one sitting right next to me.
Hello. If
you want a beautiful one, pretty one, right here. But so Tynia is open for business. Her website is wholelifecoachingandcounseling.com. So you can go on there and book sessions, a free consultation, 15-minute consultation on that website. And I'm on there too if you want to get some life coaching, maybe get some help with some conflict resolution. I'm on there as well. So go check that out. WholeLifeCoachingAndCounseling.com.
And that's whole, WHOLE.
Yes, WholeLifeCoachingAndCounseling.com.
Yes.
Anything else?
That's it.
All right. Well, this has been Glenn and Tynia Coleman and Olive Coleman tearing blankets in the background, reminding you that your marriage matters. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.